Recently, I've been giving up a lot of points on defense, surprisingly, against the passing game, which people have seemed to gotten really good at lately. You guys know that I like playing a lot of match cover 4 palms, partly because I really believe in the coverage, and partly because it's something different than what you see online. I probably stick to that to a fault. I play Ultimate Team, but not enough to have an Ultimate Team, so I end up getting roasted deep pretty regularly against the top end receivers that everybody seems to have now. But to be honest, even if I had an amazing team, I think my current scheme is just a little too predictable and static. Even when I try to mix in, your cover 2 or your cover 3, it just doesn't offer much resistance for the opponent. Good players are able to see that pretty easily and pick it apart. I think it's time for an entirely new approach for me, and something I can share with you guys while I develop it. What I've developed is a mix of match and spot drop that I think actually works really well with the game. I call it cover 7. So not to be confused with Alabama's family of man match coverages, this is cover 4 palms as the way Madden 20 programs it, mixed in with regular spot drop cover 3. Since cover 7 isn't actually in the game, I'll take it over just for the lack of creativity and naming. But it's not one coverage like, say, a cover 6, a clear mix of two different coverages. This is more of an adaptable framework that can change depending on different formations or tendencies that I'm seeing from my opponent, or just something that I can just change on a whim. So I outlined the principles for myself, and I'll share those with you guys. So 1, you can think of it as a safe cover 3 with beneficial match concepts for tighter coverages in problem areas. Or 2, you can think of it in the inverse. You can think of it as a tight match quarters with a cover 3 safety net over the top. So you're not getting bombed by post routes or corner routes or anything like that. You're always going to be safe over the top, but you're going to have a little bit to play with and a little bit more tight coverage underneath. 3, I think of this kind of as an amoeba defense that has some core principles, but really can morph between different plays, and it can morph its coverages. What that means is that, there is a base alignment. It's going to be the same exact 2-high look every time I come out, unless there's something really specific that I need to adjust some alignments for, but for the most part it will be. The coverages assignments will change between the plays, like I said earlier. So I can be structured, but I can be adaptable and kind of unpredictable for the opponent. Number 4, I want to start bringing more pressure. So rather than just sitting back and playing coverage every time, I want to be able to send 5, send 6, and so on. I have some ideas on that, and how that makes sense in this coverage, but I'll probably just save that for another video. And 5, most importantly, as a user defender, I want to play with more aggression and fluidity. Playing with a more sound defense around me will allow me to focus on making those plays rather than worrying about broken or poor coverages. Like, is this guy going to match? Is he going to do it late? Do I need to help out for a bit there? And then, so rather than thinking too much, I can just use a little bit of intuition and fly against what I predict or what I see from the offense. So with all that being said, I know that's a lot. Let's show how it looks against different passing formations. So we're just going to come out in, again, cover 4 palms, and it's actually important. It has to be at a big nickel over G because it gives us some of the adjustments that we're going to be working on. Actually, it doesn't have to be, but it definitely helps. So go ahead and cover 4 palms, and right now we're just going to start in a simple 2x2 spread. Really one of the most basic things to consider, and then we'll go into some of the other ones after that. So as much as I love this coverage, you do end up getting a lot of one-on-ones deep down the field against a lot of these burner wide receivers with post specialists and corner specialists like that. And it often, you can be playing good defense, for the whole drive or the whole game, but then this can come out of nowhere, and then there you go. You got a touchdown scored against you, and it just kind of, everything just kind of goes to waste there. So I'm going to be switching my mindset up a little bit, and we'll get into that, really, really shortly here. But I want to show you, this is one of the problem plays that you'll come up against a lot, and it doesn't always happen out, but I'll just show you this slot post right here. Any sort of post from compression, from it doesn't even need to be a compressed set, but someone in the slot, or even sometimes from out wide, they're able to beat the safety of the corner inside. In this case, the safety actually did a pretty good job, but he was still able to beat him. So those kind of things really, really annoy me, especially since this safety doesn't have any possible help to the inside. So he should, unless he is terrible, if he's, if he has half a brain, half decency, he should never allow that wide receiver to cross his face, right? He should always be keying inside for the post, right? If he's gonna break outside to the corner, sure, because the corner, that's a more difficult throw out to the sideline. You have the possibility of having help from this corner over here. And you also have the sideline over there that can be kind of a third defender as well. So that post should really never get open in this case, but unfortunately it gets open all too often. And, like I was saying before, you could be playing good, tight defense, and all of a sudden somebody hits you with a post over top, and then everything's just a wash. So that's one of the issues. And then obviously another one is, in this particular play even, the comeback routes or the out routes from the outside, or even just a curl or something like that. And I showed you in a previous video on palms ways you can go against that, but it's still difficult. Then, you can start to, the underneath guys don't really have too much work in terms of matching. So you could, potentially do something a little bit crazy and put those guys on cloud flats if you want to protect the sideline a little bit. But then you really do have a lot of area to cover here as a user. And that's, that can be fine. In some cases that can work out, but in a lot of cases it doesn't. So even if you're really good on the sticks, I'm not, it can be a lot of ground to cover. So what I've chosen to do, and I've already run a few games with this stuff, and so far it's looking pretty good, is again, I'm mixing cover 4 match palms with cover 3. And what that means, so I'll go ahead and reset that play. I am essentially thirding my corners. So that's really, really quick, right? Triangle, triangle, the icon of the corner, and then up on the left stick, right away there in thirds. And then I'm picking a safety. So it doesn't actually matter. You can pick this based off of matchups, based off of spacing, who's to the field, who's to the boundary. You could just mix it up arbitrarily. You could base it off of run fits. Say like if the inside zone is going to the left, maybe you want this guy in the fit. But you can pick one of them and you're going to put him in a middle third here. So essentially right now you got a cover 3 shell, but things work out a little bit differently in the interior. Plus you get to disguise it, right? So if I'm in big nickel over G, or even in a lot of other formations, if I'm calling cover 3, it's pretty obvious that I'm in cover 3. There's some that disguise it into a cover 2 or so on. But if you're running, say, big nickel over G, like I like to, because I like the front and I like some of the customizations that I can do with it, it's really difficult to disguise. And even cover 2 is difficult to disguise. So this allows me to do all those different coverages, but with the same look every single time. So just to add more work to my opponent, right? And then again, just really quick, outside guys on thirds, and then I would pick one of those guys to be on a third. And then from there, you can leave the quarter flats as is. But you will get, roasted up there on the sideline on out routes and stuff like that. So you can, put those guys on clouds, or you can put them on hard flats or whatever. So then you do have a cover 3 look. And then of course, like I showed you before, like many, many videos ago, that you can invert these guys, right? So you could put the corner as well on a cloud flat and put the safety on the third over there. So that's something you can do, and you can kind of mix that up as you go, right? So sometimes you're running the corner in the third, sometimes you're running the safety or the nickel guy in the third, and then again, this just adds more work for your opponent to decipher. Then in the interior, you have a lot of options here. So you have 3 main options, I would say, and I've given them kind of names here. So the first one I like to call roam and match, or maybe lurk and match would be better. So you could leave this guy here. So he would play his regular, if number 2 goes vertical, he matches him. If not, he plays his quarter. That could be beneficial in situations, and we'll get to that shortly, if that guy's doing crossing routes or corner routes or stuff like that. And then you could just lurk with this guy. So again, you're still a little bit alone in the middle of the field, though this guy can definitely help out. So that's one option. You could do kind of a high-low option. So you would leave this guy to get busy. The 3 receiver hook gets a little bit busier than just a regular hook curl guy in a cover 3. Usually that guy doesn't even do anything, right? You're usually kind of left alone in the middle of the field with your user anyway. But you could essentially leave him to do work down there. And if you really, really want, you can put him in a hook curl. But, I leave him on the 3 rec. And then I would use the safety coming from the sky here. So And I would try not to like come down here unless I want to be more aggressive against the run. I usually like to disguise it a little bit so they don't know that I'm coming from the safety. And then you could, just do your regular lurking as you see fit. So you have a couple of options there. And then of course, you can just run regular old, cover 3 with the 2 linebackers on hook curls. So the quickest way to do that, in my opinion, is just blitzing all, zoning all. Really, really quick way to do that. And then of course you're gonna lose a flat defender over there, but then you can just do that same adjustment over there where you cloud the corner and third the safety. And then this guy, you would lose him. He would have to become the middle third. So right away, you probably see that this can get complex with the adjustments. Even I'm, trying to get used to it a little bit, even though I know the adjustments pretty well. But with time, it comes, and I think it's definitely worth it. You just kind of have to get good at it. Sometimes what I'll do, actually, when I see what my opponent's formation is, when they call their play, I'll kind of take a couple seconds just to plan out what adjustments I need to do. So if I see a doubles, okay, I'll be doing this, then this, then this. So I can do that a little bit quicker. And then if you have time at the end, you can do things like, press these guys. I want to be a little bit more aggressive in my press now that I don't have to worry about those outside quarters getting burnt over the top because those guys don't do a good job. And then from there, you can do your spy or your contain that you need to do. That would probably be the last thing I'd do if I have time. Usually, of course, you do unless you just mess up all your zones. But yeah, so those are the types of things you can do. What I like about the option, the roam and match option that I was talking about, and let's just go get these guys back, where I can kind of roam over here, key in over here, and I can leave this guy here if I'm seeing that my opponent is running crossing routes from the slot wide receiver or running corner routes, say, from the slot wide receiver. So say let's do something like this. Let's run a crosser from Kelsey, and let's actually run this guy off over here as well. So what's nice about this is that I don't have to leave my area. I can let that safety match that crossing route right all the way across the field there. And so you kind of have this nice high-low option where you're working underneath and he's over the top. Or you can do this type of thing. So you can run pretty aggressively underneath with, say, hard flats, and then you can do your regular thirds and keep that matching quarter there in the middle here. So if they are trying to run things like, like a flood or something like that, let's say a flood like this, where you have a flat coming across here that your hard flat will take, the third will take the vertical, and you could even press that. And then you have the matching safety right there in case you do have a corner route right here. He might get beat a little bit, but he'll catch up and be able to make a play nicely on that. And then if you do have that guy that you're matching on with the safety, if he runs underneath or flat or a hitch like that, you don't have to have that safety running across the field trying to catch him, because again, this is a match coverage. He's only taking things that are vertical. So underneath, then your hard flats or your curl flats or whatever can take over from there. So it's not this like thing that's going to work all the time and be amazing for you, but what I found, it's definitely a nice tool to have when you are noticing that a certain player is running crossing routes or corner routes. You can work off of that. You'll have a matching guy, but you'll still be safe over the top with your thirds. Okay, so that's cover 7 for 2x2. Let's go into trips now. Okay, so here we're in a regular old trip set, and then we're coming out again in palms right here. So palms, the backside over here, I do have issues there. So this corner is in man lock against that weak wide receiver over there, DeAndre Hopkins, and he doesn't really have any help to the interior. So if you do have something like this, if you have a post coming from there, and let me just get these guys out of the way. Doesn't always happen, but he can beat him inside, and then you see this thing, just instant, easy touchdown. That can be really annoying to deal with. So one thing you can do, you can just third your free safety here. So in that case, he'll cover the post, but then you're left a little bit susceptible underneath. I mean, not so much, right? Because this guy's in man coverage, this guy's in man coverage, and then you have some flat defenders plus yourself. So that's always an option that you can go with. Or, just to be consistent with this idea of, cover 7, whatever you want to call it, we can do the same thing where we're building a cover 3 with some, matching principles. So we have the thirds on the outside, and then we would third the strong safety as well. And then, you know, you can leave the flats like this. You probably wouldn't want to, or you can just, you know, run the curl flats here or hard flats. Likewise, you can cloud the strong side over here where you have the corner in the flat, and then you have the strong nickel safety there, running the outside third there, again, just to mix things up for your opponent, keep them guessing. But what's nice here is that this guy covers crossers much better than the will linebacker in a cover 3. So he's another useful guy for you. So say we have a crosser from Kelsey here, and actually I'll just run a better crosser because that crosser's terrible. I don't want to have to worry about that as a user, right? I want somebody else to worry about that and then kind of lurk on the middle of the field. So now I'm safe over the top, plus I have this safety here that's able to match that. And like I was saying earlier, if I'm doing this at a cover 3, this is a cover 3 match, but against trips, it's really the same thing. Let me go ahead and go against that, get off of that guy, run pretty much the same thing. But this guy, though he does have an assignment to match crossers coming from the strong side, a lot of the time he'll bug out, depending on maybe a running back route. He goes to the flat or there's a drag underneath. He's really not consistent on that. So in this case, let's see. Yeah, he kind of lets him go. Now this is a late throw, but he lets him go there and we're able to get a 20-30 yard gain there. So again, you know, what we're doing here is really similar to a cover 3, except we do have, again, those nice little touches coming from, you know, left over from cover 4 palms that can help us make this a little bit better than the regular cover 3. Plus we have the ability to say, you know, do something like almost like a cover 2 on that side. And we could even just do a full out cover 2, right? You'll lose that matcher on the weak side, but it's another option that you can do, right? You can cloud both corners, you can outside third both the outside safeties, middle third the inside safety, and then just put these guys on hooks, and you pretty much have a Tampa 2 right here. And then again, you could press here because you don't have to worry about getting beat over the top. You got those guys here, here, and here. Or, you know, I didn't mention this before, sometimes you can just run straight up palms, right? It's about keeping the same look but running different things. So if they see early on in the game that running a post, there's a safety there in the middle of the field, is not going to work, maybe they won't go back to that, and maybe you can go back to palms a little safer. It's up to you, but there's a lot of options that we can do with that. And before we move on, another thing I want to say is that, like I was saying, it probably is better to reflat your flats because this guy's essentially in man coverage on the back if you don't reflat him, and this guy is going to relate to number 2, so any out routes from number 1, which a lot of people run, is going to be wide open. But it can be something nice to put in every once in a while. It might mess with your opponent a little bit. Like say if you have 4 verticals here, you'll still have your 3 deep defenders, but you'll also have the slot guy moving with him, which might throw some people off. It might be kind of interesting. With that, that's actually probably the closest thing we'll get to a trips cover 3 match. Like, this is probably what cover 3 match should be like. Right now it's spot drops. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Let's get to the bunch check. So just like the other sets, you do have issues with posts here coming from the weak side or the strong side, or, you know, crossers coming from, well, not so much crossers, but really, again, those posts are going to be an issue for you. So what I have, and I'm still working on this a little bit, but what I'm thinking of doing is I would third the weak side corner and third the strong safety and leave everything else the way it is. Actually, I would probably reflat the weak side linebacker here and then leave everything else the way it is. I've also considered halving this guy in case you get deep posts from the strong side, but I don't think it's too important. It's something that I'm still trying to work out a little bit. But by and large, I'm going to be modifying this guy so he's not chasing across the field with that wide receiver over there, and then the strong side over here, and then everything else is the same. So what's good about this is that you have safety over the top with this guy, and then the corner here as well, but you also have a guy here free to match crossers coming from the strong side, and then you also have the corner here to match corner routes from the strong side. So I've shown this, you know, many times before, that he's gonna sit in a really nice spot. So any of these corners coming from compression that people like to run, you're gonna be there ready for that interception. And just like I showed you against trips, this guy doesn't really have any coverage assignments, so he's just going to be watching any crossers coming from the strong side. Like say if you are coming up against Pat's verts, he's going to match that crosser right there, and then the other guys on the strong side are going to match or cover the other routes over there. Actually, one thing that I didn't say, and let me just go ahead and reset the play here. This is, again, something I'm playing around with, but you can show blitz here, so that'll bring those corners down a little bit, be a little bit more aggressive against those guys, but it'll also bring this guy down, so he can be a little bit more aggressive in the run fit. Plus, I feel like he matches a little bit better. Like, he'll always match, but I feel like he gets a little bit better positioning against crossing routes. So that's nice. You can do that, and that's going to be good run support because, right, he's the force guy to the left, and he's also a contained guy. He can fly around that edge and make a tackle in the backfield somehow, or sometimes, and then be in a bit of a better position against those crossing routes. And then from there, you would just do the same thing over here, and you're going to be solid. One thing I will say, though, if they are running verticals here, we know that against man coverage, that wheel route gets really, really open. So if I were to see that, there's two options I would do. I would third that corner, then you're going to be susceptible to corner routes, but you're not going to give up the deep wheel route there. And then from there, I would just reflat these guys. Or what I've also been playing around with is, again, you would do the same thing here, but you would half this guy and you would half the safety over here. So now you would still be tight underneath, but if he tries to beat you over the top, well, then you have that safety there ready to make a user click on interception. And the last thing, we'll go over compression here. You know, these corner routes are always a big problem, but we know, I made 1 or 2 whole videos on this already. Corner routes from the strong side, Palms does a really good job at defending that, right? Corner gets there, able to make a play. But the backside is kind of wonky, and I've given a tip of, using this safety and manning up the backside, which is actually pretty good. I still like to run that, but if you want to be a little bit safer, you can third the weak side corner and third the weak side safety, and then you would just leave everything else except what I would do. I would probably reflat these guys, preferably maybe a hard flat, and then you're going to be good on the right. You're going to be good against corner routes. You're going to be good against post routes coming from either side. The only thing, maybe actually you maybe want to do this type of thing also. You can switch up who's in the flat, and otherwise you're going to be solid there. Okay, that's it. I'm going to be playing around a little bit more with this stuff. I might make another video down the road if I see something more interesting. If you guys want to join me in this, definitely let me know how it goes. I'll probably write down the descriptions for these things because obviously you don't want to watch this video multiple times just to see the setups. So I don't know if I want to do maybe a defensive ebook or just write it in this description. If you made it this far, definitely let me know what you would prefer, and then we could try to get that out to you guys. Okay, hope you guys like this, and we'll see you guys in the next one.